For hockey fans here in Nova Scotia, July 16, 2016 is a memorable day. Just a few days before that, Sidney Crosby, a native of Cole Harbour, won his second Stanley Cup on June 13 when his Pittsburgh Penguins beat the San Jose Sharks in 6 games. I'm sure you remember that game. And thousands of people were there on July 16 to witness the parade in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, as the Pittsburgh Penguins captain showed off the Stanley Cup to his hometown fans. I'm just curious, how many of you were there to witness that parade? Okay, some of you there. Okay, so I'm sure it was a memorable day to see that. And I could just imagine the pride and the excitement of the people of Cole Harbour to see one of their own succeed in the NHL. And we could say that Sidney Crosby is one of the most famous Canadian sports athletes today because of his many accomplishments as a hockey player in the Canadian national team and in his present NHL team. If a person would ask, who is Sidney Crosby, I'm sure his millions of fans will be able to say what country he's from, his present NHL team, his accomplishments, and etc. And for the young hockey enthusiasts, I'm sure they would say that he's a role model for them. But if you ask that question to those who are very close to him, like his family, close friends, relatives, teammates, they would give a different and more personal answer to who Sidney Crosby really is. They will be able to describe who he is as a son, as a brother, as a friend, and as a teammate. Jesus, during his time, started to get popular because of his preaching and his healing. So when he asked this question to his disciples, who do people say that I am? The response that he got was a public opinion survey. Okay? And his disciples said, well, some people say that you're John the Baptist, Elijah, or a prophet. We live in a world with a lot of different or false views of Jesus today. And you can find any views of Jesus that you want him to be. And people of today would say that Jesus was a holy man, a a good teacher, a revolutionary, and some people would even say that he's just a myth. And we can easily miss him like the people in the time of Jesus. And when Jesus asked the disciples with the question, those of you who are closest to me, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Peter was able to give the right answer because of his closeness to Jesus. And knowing who Jesus is and what following him means is something the disciples did not learn all at once. It was a painful journey for them. At first, the disciples thought that Jesus would be a political king who would expel the Romans and restore independence to Israel. But it was only later that they would realize that Jesus' mission had everything to do with overthrowing the power of sin through the cross. If Jesus asked all of us individually, who do you say that I am? What will be our answer? Jesus is not asking this question because he has become delusional or he has an identity crisis. He is asking this question not for his benefit, but for ours. This is a question that all of us needs to personally answer. And our answer to that question will help us respond whether we will follow Jesus or not. That will have a life-changing consequence. Maybe you are not sure or confident in who Jesus is. I want to offer you a chance to investigate and think about who Jesus is to you and what he means for your life. One of the ways of getting to know who Jesus is and what he means in our lives is through Alpha, People love coming to Alpha because it is a safe and relaxed environment to explore the question about who Jesus is. It is also a great experience of community where friendships are formed. I've heard of people who continue to gather together as a group for many years, even after taking Alpha. Alpha is not just one program among many. It is the main tool for the evangelization for this parish. I see Alpha as like a net that we cast into the deep sea to have a good catch of fish. It is so effective in bringing people to Jesus that there have been 29 million people who have taken Alpha all over the world. And just looking at that number, that's very close to the total population of Canada. Can you imagine like 29 million Canadians who would take Alpha and undergo this conversion and experience this encounter with the Lord and experience the power of the Holy Spirit? And what will happen is that the churches in Canada will come alive and the churches of Canada will be packed. Alpha can have a reputation that it is a program that caters only to the unchurched. That is true in one sense. But it can also benefit those who are already coming to church. There are people who would say, I don't need Alpha. But what is Alpha? We know Alpha is coming together to have a shared meal, listen to a talk, and have a shared discussion. But at the very bottom of Alpha, it is all about knowing who Jesus is, falling in love with Him, and falling in love with others. See? So why do people say that they don't need Alpha? All of us all need to grow in those areas in our life. I've heard a long-time practicing Catholic say a personal testimony that he gave, and he said this: up until I took Alpha, I really thought that I was living the fullness of the Christian faith. An imagery that I could think of for Alpha is like a camera lens. And we could get used to viewing our faith in a particular way. Okay? Alpha is really good at changing that lens for which we view our relationship with Jesus and with others. So don't miss out on the opportunity to zoom in on something new that Jesus is trying to reveal to you about the Catholic faith. I'd like to show you a video of a testimony of a priest on how Alpha has changed his outlook about his priesthood and about the Catholic faith.
My name is Father James. Crisis point, something which had been building over time. I was accumulating ministries. I was making. It was more with the church regulations as relationship with Jesus Christ.
Could we just start all over again the video so that the people will be able to hear the message again?
My name is Father James Mackay. I'm parish priest of the parish of Our Lady of Walsingham in the Royal Docks, East London. For the longest time I was a happy priest, but 6 years in I really came to a crisis point, something which had been building over time. I was accumulating ministries, I was making less time for prayer. I began to feel that as regulations, as teaching, and less a relationship. I didn't want to live that anymore. So I turned to another priest for mentoring. Said to him, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And it was at that moment that he put Divine Renovation by James Mallon, the book, in my hand. And it became apparent that Alpha was key to the game plan of evangelisation in Father James Mallon's parish. So I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try. I had my suspicions because it comes from the Anglican Church initially. So I thought I'd go to Holy Trinity Brompton. So I put together a crew of about 10 people, 10 friends from the parish, and we experienced Alpha together. After the third and fourth week, as we encountered the person of Jesus through the inputs, people just began to open up in a way which, you think, at first to an outsider would seem strange, but to us felt quite natural, to openly talk about our own lives and how Jesus comes into that space. The freedom people had to speak, and really the freedom that people had because they felt loved by their hosts and by the group was palpable. The joyful consequence of it was that we became good friends, and that made it much easier for us to imagine how we would run an Alpha, because I think Alpha begins with relationship. So on that basis alone, we had the good foundation to run Alpha in our parish. Alpha's been key to the transformation of my understanding of what it is to be a priest, to be a leader, and as a member of the baptized. And I feel part of something rather than above it, and that for me is church.
So we see in that video 6 years into his priesthood, and he looks at his Catholic faith as more of like a relationship with just an institution, okay, the church. And it's more about rules, regulations, and teachings, and less about relationship with Jesus. And through Alpha, we see the transformation that happened in his life. Because what happened there was that he was able to have a better understanding about his priesthood, his leadership, and also what it means to be a member of the baptized. So I really want to invite everyone in the parish to try and go to the Alpha Come and See this September 27, Thursday. It starts at 6 p.m. at St Elizabeth Seton Church. We all need to go back to the basic. We all need to encounter or re-encounter the power of the Holy Spirit, which is God's love. We all need community, and we all need to hear the good news of our faith. And it will be very good for all of us to experience Alpha and familiarize ourselves with this tool of evangelization, so that when we experience how beneficial Alpha is in our relationship with Jesus and others, it is very hard not to invite others to experience what Alpha has to offer. So next weekend, Father Brian will be talking about in his homily on how you could use Alpha to try to invite others. So at the end of the Mass, there's a table set up in the foyer where you can register for the Alpha and Come and See, which is for one night only. You're registering for one night only. Try it. If you don't like it, then you don't need to come back the following week. And there will be an Alpha team member who will assist you. So make sure that you get an Alpha card with all the details of the event as you go out to church. So consider coming to Alpha and start praying, who else do you want to invite? If Jesus would ask us this question, who do you say that I am? This is a question that all of us need to personally answer. If you're not sure of the answer to that question, try coming to Alpha.